Let's talk about 5 ways that stalkers are tracking down where you live and what you can do to prevent it. If you're married and you have kids, then you better believe that you need to stay on top of making sure that nobody can find your front door. So the first way this happens is through data broker sites. There are millions of these websites all over the internet, and you've seen some of them. Sites like People Finder, Intellius, or Spokeo. You just get on there and type in a name, and some won't cost you a cent, while others ask for $20 or something like that. Not very much, and before you know it, you figured out that John Doe lives at 123 Main Street in Minneapolis or wherever. Then you can just, referring to the stalkers, they can just jump over to Google's Street View to see the actual house and click everything out. So it takes maybe 2 minutes at the most. It's not like you need to be some kind of genius to do this. You just go to one of those sites, type in the info, and then you've got the address. So that's the first major one. The second way is through social media, of course. And this shouldn't come to us as a surprise. All of us have multiple different kinds of social media accounts, and we know that all of our sensitive information is on there when we sign up. Now, hopefully you're smart enough to not go on Facebook and just post your different numbers, your house number, your address, your phone number, your email, and all that. Even though when it comes to the contact information, we tend to leave a lot of those things there, like our email or phone number. But especially your address for everyone to see. Most people know better than that, but what are people doing instead? Well, they're taking photos all around their property, and sometimes they do these kind of like crib tours where they're taking pictures of the inside of their kitchen and the living room, all these renovations they're doing, and the garden work and the lawn work. And maybe they've snapped a picture right in front of their house where you can clearly see the address, So the address is right there, right? It's in the photo. Or maybe they're constantly tagging themselves at a local coffee shop. But there are people online today who've become experts at piecing all of these clues together. So they'll see a photo from a front porch and know exactly what city it's in. And since that person's always at the same nearby cafe, the person making these posts, the stalker can reverse engineer the locations quite easily. They'll figure out the street and the house number in no time, so you really have to be careful about what you're showing in your posts. It doesn't take much for an online sleuth to look through your last 100 photos and pinpoint exactly where you live in a place like Cedar City. You just have to stay vigilant about that. These are called breadcrumbs, right? You're leaving traces and clues all around. The third way is through public records. Someone can just hop onto a real estate website or dig through property records to see if, John Doe owes any land in Springfield or anywhere else. If you've ever been part of a lawsuit as well, those are on the public records too. So they can search those files and find your personal info. So there's also voter registration too. Registration data in the States, at least in America, your vote and which side you're on politically gets registered. And there are other avenues where they can legally or even illegally grab your details just because it's on the public record. So while social media takes a bit of time to piece together, getting into public records is almost as easy as using data broker sites. You can really just call up a local property office and ask who owns a specific house on Main Street, and they'll just give you that information right over. Sometimes it's a mailing address and sometimes it's the actual house. But all it takes is one phone call to the city and they'll give it to you. So you have to be very careful of that. Now the fourth way is simply your phone number. We all use our numbers constantly. Maybe you're giving it to a delivery driver or a new acquaintance, or typing it into a site like Amazon when you're buying something. But just like there are sites to find people, there are also reverse phone number lookup tools all over the web. Someone can just plug in a number and Depending on how your data is shielded, it'll tell them the number belongs to so and so at this place or wherever. So don't think it won't happen to you, because it happens all the time. Those reverse lookup sites are incredibly accurate these days, and you can bet that private investigators and people with bad intentions are using them constantly. Finally, the fifth way is just old school surveillance. And this takes a lot more effort than the others I've mentioned, and this is more of a serious business usually. And this was something that the intelligence agencies would do long before the times of social media. So it's a classic method. Basically, they'll check your social media to see where you hang out. I mean, these days they can do that. Like the Starbucks you're always at, or the park where you take the kids to play. And they'll just go wait at that park or stake out at the coffee shop that you post about all the time. And then they'll simply follow you home all the way. And this is exactly what the intelligence agencies do. But you have to have a really determined stalker, or maybe you're dealing with something more serious, a very bad divorce, a crazy ex-partner, someone's trying to dig you up, so they might be watching you right now just to see where you're headed. Now I'll get into how you can actually protect yourself from all of this. First off, I really recommend not having anything delivered directly to your front door. So the goal is to not have your home address show up on anything at all. That way, if somebody goes digging through your property records or your real estate sites, they won't find your home or even your name. You can actually keep your home ownership under an LLC or a trust instead. And your car registrations don't have to list your home address either. And in many cases, even your driver's license doesn't need to have it on there either. Now, I know some people are thinking they've already got their address on everything, but it's not always that hard to go back and change that. So I suggest trying to update all of those records, because it is possible and it's not always the hardest thing to do. Now, there are a few other things you can do to stay safe. You have to secure those social media accounts. Now, every platform, of course, has privacy settings, so definitely go through all of that. Go through the menu diving and see what all the options are. Make sure everything's checked, everything that looks useful, and update it all. And then once you've done that, the next thing is to look at how you've actually been posting, right? Look at your post history, or rather your account history, to see if you've been leaving, as I mentioned, leaving breadcrumbs in your older posts. Because, for instance, if you ever posted a picture of your front porch where the house number is visible, right? Or look for anything that points back to your front door. Maybe you took a great photo on your lawn with the mountains in the background and a street sign nearby, and someone could easily cross-reference those landmarks to figure out that you live in one or only one of those three houses, for example. So you need to scrub those kinds of photos, or at least, edit them. With Photoshop these days, it's really easy to remove things now. So you don't have to be a Photoshop whiz. You can just load it up. And then everything is AI these days. So you can just circle like a sign or circle your address and just click remove, basically. And it'll just fill in the blank. And it won't just be like a white space. It'll just generate the rest of that empty spot with what matches, something that matches your existing environment or colors and patterns and stuff. So it does that really well these days. Of course, you need a subscription, but it's worth it. Now, yeah, so you want to get rid of those distinct markers. Just start thinking about the things those clues that stalkers are looking for, right? It's also a smart move to use a service that pulls out your private info, or that extracts your private info and removes it from the web. As I mentioned before, I personally use a company called Delete Me, because doing this yourself is almost impossible, and it's just completely inefficient and takes forever. And you'd have to do it continually. So the way they they do this is they go in and they wipe out all of your data from those broker sites that I mentioned, and they set up data sheets for every family member, which is just a fancy way of saying they keep track of what your needs are and what needs to be removed for everyone in the house. You can even keep things private to other account members, so your kids aren't seeing your personal data, or your friends, who is totally customizable. So basically, it makes managing your privacy incredibly easy, and it scans hundreds of sites and eliminates everything, monitors it, making sure nothing pops back up later on. Now, finally, the last thing is you have to vary your patterns. I am aware that people are very attached to their routines. They like their morning routine. They like doing things at certain times. But, if you're truly worried about a serious threat, you can't keep a predictable schedule. So if you're going to the gym at 9 a.m. and then Starbucks at 10:30 every single day, then you got to change that up, because I know people who work with high profile clients, and they face real dangers, and they're very concerned about stalkers and things like that. And this guy tells them that these stalkers are going to learn exactly where you live and what you do, and at least publicly where you go, because you've been posting about your favorite places, and they're going to cross-reference everything. They're going to look at the time the post was made, or see if you mention anything about your routine. So you have to break those habits. It's not convenient or fun, but do you want to go to the gym at the same time, or do you want to be dead? That's the situation these people are dealing with. So at least change it up. And this kind of circumstance is worth it. Hopefully you'll take all these steps and do everything you can to stay safe. Next time you have to renew your license, see if you can get your home address off of there. I personally use UPS stores and private mailboxes for the packages I receive. And I actually know a guy who's never had a single thing delivered to his front door. No Amazon boxes, no pizza, no skip the dishes, nothing like that. So he stays completely off the radar, and which is exactly why nobody can track him down where he actually lives. So use a service like Delete Me, keep your personal info off the web, and make sure you're constantly varying your routines, because at the end of the day, it's those predictable patterns that get people into trouble. So I truly hope you never have to deal with anything like this. But we live in a pretty wild world, so you never know where a coworker might turn into a stalker, or an ex-partner might start causing problems. It's just too unpredictable out there to not protect your home address anymore. So please start taking this more seriously and stay safe.